Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We have here about 8 topics, from France to Russia to Ukraine to Poland to Latvia, and they're related to the first F-16 fighter jets reportedly shot down Russian missiles over Ukraine, piloted by Ukrainian pilots. That is the main piece of news here that I think it's very much noteworthy. The other one is the Ukrainians destroyed another oil refinery, or at least attacked, set on fire another Russian refinery inside Russia. So the masters of Ukraine, the Al Capones of Ukraine, or Al Capone, let's put it this way, are trying to eliminate competition on the market, which is oil, gas. That's exactly what they've been trying to do since a long time ago, even before February 24th of 2022. But nevertheless, we have compulsory conscription in Latvia of women. We have the Ukrainians demanding $50 billion with no strings attached, and that is Denys Shmyhal. Well, it's he. I gotta confess this. He is on the right post, which is foreign minister dealing with money. I suspect that Mr. Shmyhal will get a position after Ukraine is whatever is going to go left or right. He's going to get a position in the big international banking system, which could be, let's say, International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, or who knows, maybe some Roth. They're not too obvious. They're smarter than that. So let's start with this one. Let me put my goggles. So Ukraine's F-16 jets intercept Russian missiles in apparent first. So remember, that's plural, and this is plural. So missiles and jets. But we're going to find out they were piloted by Ukrainian, obviously, pilots, which I don't believe, but hey, that's the way it is. Russia fired dozens of missiles and drones across Ukraine for a second day on Tuesday, including some that Ukraine's president says, the big lie guy, said they were shot down by Western-supplied F-16 fighter jets before they reached their targets. Possible? Yes. Probable? I will give 50-50. Piloted by the Ukrainians? 1%. That's how much I give. USA Today tells us that Ukrainian pilots, you have to get that in your melons, that they are Ukrainian pilots, okay? Ukrainian pilots is not just like the other guys said, Ukraine's F-16s. No, you have to understand it's Ukrainian pilot, and they will keep repeating this. Pay attention to this little detail. Pilots fly F-16 warplanes in combat for first time in fight against Russia. Ukraine has begun using F-16 warplanes in combat as Russia has mounted F-16 are the most sophisticated weapons of the US-led coalition had supplied Ukrainians with Russia. So let's make a few things clear. This is an international banking American military industrial complex, which is the arms industry, and natural resources companies who are waging a war through United States of America, harnessing the United States of America, and United States of America employs its vassal states, and together they have the Ukrainians dying for those interests in Russia. That's the whole thing over there. I know Russia unprovoked attacked and all this garbage. You can believe that if you want. But I'm pretty sure that if you have a neighbor over there who brings his troops next to you and rockets and missiles around you here, you would not like that. And you would tell, hey, what are you doing? And the other guy says, it's within my rights. Yeah, but should I be threatened by this? No, don't worry. No. But can I do the same thing to you? No. That's how you know those guys have not good intentions. So that's the first one. The F-16s. F-16s will be employed. As I said, 99% it's with NATO American pilots. Why? They would not risk giving this sophisticated F-16 designed in 1969, first flight in 1974. That sophisticated plane, just so you know, it's about 50 some years old. Designed more than 50 years old. Imagine a car was designed that. Yeah, I know, add-ons and okay. They will not give this sophisticated, let's buy that garbage, to some Ukrainians who can just take the plane and land it in Russia. Like, if you remember, that Soviet pilot landed a MiG-31, landed it in Japan. I don't think they take that chance. That's why I don't think they have the Patriot under the Ukrainian military. It's not because they're incapable. They don't take this risk. Or the HIMARS, even the tanks, the Leopard 2 tanks of the Germans and the Abrams, I don't think they're operated by the Ukrainian crew for that particular reason. So they will be shut down one by one, like any other, like not any other, but like, you know, airplanes are shut down, unless you buy these guys' Hollywood infantile explanation and propaganda that those guys are so good that the Russians don't have the way to shut them down. Well, therefore, you will believe in stealth fighters and in invisible fighters, in the smart bombs that people with long nails are operating with the joysticks and okay, and then they destroy the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, 1999, with the smart bombs operated by baboons. All right, let's go to the next one. So they will be down one by one, like the Russians' plane are down by the other side. As I said, too much Hollywood maybe. Business Insider. Ukraine's new F-16s are flying missions and shut down incoming missiles during a massive Russian attack. Zelensky says, when this guy's open his mouth, is either to suck it or to say a lie. Usually a big lie, or ask for money. Well, next one, go to the next topic. AGUR and Special Operations Forces strike oil depot in Russia's Rostov Oblast, supplying fuel to only Russian troops. So that fuel in Rostov, and the Rostov Oblast, I will show you the map, supplies only Russian troops, not civilians whatsoever. They tell us. Now, is it legitimate target? Well, in an all war, yeah. You destroy the enemy's resources. They could, arm their military and fight against you and kill you, your military, your family, and so on. But if we judge the same way, as I always say, from this, well, who are at that depot? Who's working over there? Civilians, aren't they? So you blow up civilians working over there. For a civilian business, that's not a military business. That's oil refinery, oil depot, right? So then you go like that and you say, okay, the military drives tanks, all right? You're going to destroy those tanks. Well, the military uses knives, to cut their food and all that. You're going to destroy them. Who's working over there? Civilians. Well, the military uses, clothes. Who makes those? Civilians. Well, the military uses, roads, bridges. They drink water, maybe bottled water, pretty sure. They're not going to go to a fountain. So who bottles the water? Well, some companies operated by what? By civilians. So is that legitimate? And then you can go to the final thing, which is, well, how does Russia have soldiers? By having sex? By whom? By soldiers? By civilians. Therefore, if you go that, you will stop the supply of new military to Russia if things goes about 18 years or 19, give it 9 months conceiving thing, right? So by that you can go and the Geneva Convention can be tossed to garbage. All right, so here it is, the first article. The second here, Ukrinform. Oil depot in Rostov region of Russia struck by DUI, I call it, and ASF. So they tell us that as a result of joint operation of the DIU and the armed special forces, Ukraine made strike UAVs hit the Atlas oil depot in the Federal State Reserve Agency in the Kamensk-Shkapeskopsko settlement of Rostov region of the Russian Federation. Very interesting, because if you want to destroy someone's ability to provide you with weapons to fight, then the Russians could hit, I don't know, Western depots, factories, Rheinmetall, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, right? No. Why? As I said, I can bring troops around you and missiles around you, fly around and over you, but you can't do that to me. And you call that justice? I don't think so. So the other one says, let me show you. I'm going to show you a map in a second. Is managed by Federal Agency for State Reserves. Yeah, okay. So it goes here. Heard explosions in the areas of Novoshakhtinsk, Aksai, and the western part of Rostov overnight. So this is a refinery right here, and this is in the great city of Novokapakapazaparapa right here. Where are you? Novoshakhtinsky. Where is this located? Close to the former border with Ukraine. I will show you a different map. This is the former border with Ukraine right here. This is the Crimean Peninsula. This is the Kerch Bridge. So this is the Sea of Azov. So this is where they struck here, and I can show you a different map right here. It is right here. Right here. Novoshakhtinsk, Paparapa. So this is again Rostov-on-Don. This is Sea of Azov. So it was hit where my strong hand is. Close to the border, but nevertheless hit. Next one. Poland has no more weapons for Ukraine. Deputy Prime Minister. This is from the 28th of August 2024. This is how the racket works. They don't have old weapons to give. Why? Because it was this way. They renewed their weapons and ammunition with newer. They're not like the I got an F-35 right now, the Poles, and they're all happy about it. So they got rid of all the weapons that they had before, and ammunition, gave it to Ukraine, the old Soviet, Russian, whatever they needed, or old Western weapons, gave it over there. In the meantime, their government purchased either with the taxpayers' money or with the loans from international banking systems, bought new ones. So the new ones will get old in about first second you bought them. They're old already. And then when these get too old, and let's say Rheinmetall, or as I said, Raytheon or Boeing or Lockheed Martin needs a new order, they will give this one to Ukraine if it gets to that point. That could be 2 months, that could be 2 years, that could be 5 years. It depends when these arms manufacturing companies need more revenue, because they have a lot of orders right now. Why? It's a war in Ukraine, and we're defending freedom and democracy again. So when these guys are going to get old, they're going to give this over there, and they're going to get the newer ones. And therefore, these companies will always have commands, orders, will have right there. That's the way it is. So this guy is right, half right. He ignores the whole racket. And the Polish people are daily scared, panicked, like the Russians are coming. Or it's time for us to stick it to the Russians. Don't you like that, my friends? And they're like, yeah. Instead of, hey, how about the Katyn Forest? Katyn Forest, the Soviets did it. Look deeper into that. Or look, why don't you look at Antonio Banderas? I'm sorry, Stefan Bandera. Why don't you look at him and his actions? Now we have selective values, which is now the Russians are to hate, not these guys. We're going to take care of the Ukrainians later, but now Russians. And after that, we'll figure out. It depends on what the boss tells us. So let's see how Poland ran out of weapons. National security takes priority for Warsaw. Okay, national security. When you get engaged with Russia and you keep saying what you're saying and doing, you threaten your national security for the Polish people every day with a nuclear attack from Russia. But nevertheless, over further aiding Kiev, they aid Kiev, they don't destroy Russia. No, they aid. The senior official has said, Poland has sent to Ukraine all the weapons it can without sacrificing its own security. Deputy Prime Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said on Tuesday. The senior official, who also serves as the country's defense minister, was reacting to remarks made earlier in the day by Vladimir Zelensky. The Ukrainian leader, he's Ukrainian as I am Zimbabwean, had asked for Polish fighter jets and for Warsaw to shoot down Russian missiles over Western Ukraine, although he acknowledged that both requests have unlikely to be met anytime soon. So a foreign leader asked the Polish, for security reasons, to shoot down Russian missiles over a foreign country when they know that the bad dude Russia told the Poles and NATO, if that happens, we're going to strike inside of your country, we're going to destroy and attack those weapons that you used to shoot our missiles. That means we're going to be in direct war with you, Poland. So that is security, national security that this defense minister is talking about. They're poking the bear not with a stick, with many sticks. And the polar bear, or in this case, the Russian bear, is going to smack these guys. They will have no patience with them. That's what I think. But nevertheless, let's read further. And I'm quoting, the Polish government, both our government and the government of our predecessors, have donated, they get something in return, they didn't donate shit, billions of dollars worth of equipment to Ukraine. What kind of equipment? The one I told you. There's all we were able to donate. Now, Rheinmetall, come over. Agency Papapap said when asked about Zelensky's remarks. Polish President Andrzej Duda, a political ally of the previous conservative government, highlighted last week the scale of both military and non-military aid provided to Ukraine, saying the country has spent roughly 3.3% of its GDP on it. Right here. I was right, of course. Among the items Poland has not donated, it is remaining fleet of Soviet MiG-29 fighter jets. Yeah, they're too good. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said in early July that the aircraft were needed for protecting Poland and would have to be replaced before being made available to Kiev. What does that mean? This guy told PAP that the F-35 fighter jets that Poland ordered from the US won't replace the MiGs until at least 2026. Why? Because these guys are not coming over yet. He also reiterated that Poland will not engage Russian projectiles at Kiev's request unless other NATO nations, because you're strong. I told you. Courage is in packs, in numbers, and weakness and cowardness is in one person. So if you fight alone, because you're a coward, but because you fight in a group, like in an alliance, that shows courage. So the Poles are afraid to be smacked alone. They want guarantees that Big Daddy, who pushes Poland forward, will react when the Russians will smack them. Or maybe you think you're going to beat Russia. And your argument could be, very short-sighted, if Ukraine can cause so much problems to Russia, how about us? Ha ha ha! Well, Russia fights, I think, with about 5% to 6.5% of its capability. Why? If they just want to stop the war today, they can do it. Not by stopping it. Just drop a few, or 1, or 3, or 5, certain kind of missiles, and everybody's going to calm down, go to work, and shut the fuck up. I guarantee you that. Everybody's going to be like, okay, I don't want my children that I work so hard to get into Harvard, Yale, and Princeton to be blown up by crazy Putin. For what? For the sleazy Zelensky-Stein? Please. That's the whole thing. But it's still under control. Next one. Kiev, we find out, tested first ballistic missile. Isn't that strange that all of a sudden, supposedly, Kiev is released or relieved of any constraint? It can build, allegedly, drones, jet drones, rocket drones, that's how they call them, that can go thousands of kilometers. Remember, that could hit Washington, D.C. when Kiev decides it should or might or would. Now they have a first ballistic missile allowed by the Americans. Those are not Ukrainians, no Ukrainian ballistic missiles. This is what I think it is. These are supplied by the same guys, and the Ukrainians. The big liar Zelensky Stein says, well, it's our production. And when they hit Moscow, for instance, or St. Petersburg, it's not those guys. Hit us. Hit the Ukrainians. Zelensky Stein, no. Shmyhal Stein, no. And the Yermak Stein, no. They will not be hit. Only the Ukrainians. Hit the Ukrainians. We fight for Ukrainians. You don't hurt us. You hurt the Ukrainians, because we don't belong to Ukraine. We belong to other interests. So hit them, and the Americans will wait. Will they do it? But this guy said, if Lavrov yesterday told the Americans, if Americans think, and they talk a lot about World War III, if they think that World War III will affect only Europe, they're mistaken. They are invited. We are all inclusive. We love inclusion, right? What do you call it? Diversity, inclusion, and equity. So let's see. Kiev has tested first ballistic missile, Zelensky Stein says. The Ukrainian leader, again, Jesus Christ, don't equate these guys, Ukrainians, with Zelensky, because this guy has no problem destroying someone else's nation. Did not give details, but said he wanted the public to appreciate domestic defense producers, military, right? Industrial complex, too. Ukraine has test fired its first domestically produced ballistic missile. Kiev has been asking its Western backers for months to allow it to use foreign-made missile systems to hit targets deep in Russia. But right now, when they will do it, I suspect with NATO weapons, they will say, no, remember that article that you read from Russia Today that Zelensky Stein said we possess them? Those are the ones. And you're a baboon and you believe it, right? No, you won't. The Ukrainian leader, again, made the announcement at a press conference on Tuesday, and I'm quoting, what other developments are there in Ukraine? I thought it was too early to talk about it, but there was a positive test of the first Ukrainian ballistic missile. I congratulate our military production complex on this. Do you think the Americans will allow them to have it? They could hit American targets. They could hit European targets. So let's say somehow Ukraine goes rogue, all right? And decides to, hey, we need something. And those guys say, we're not going to give you. Back off, Zelensky Stein or whomever, Berg or Mann is going to be in charge of them, of the Ukrainian nation. And the guy says, yeah, all right. And all of a sudden, Berlin is hit by a ballistic missile. Or London is hit by a ballistic missile. I'm just saying. Or Paris. What are you going to do then? It's domestically made, by the way. Woohoo! Is that what you're going to do? You're not going to allow these guys to just turn around and hit you unless you really have this much control over it, and I think they do. That's why they supposedly let them have it, which I don't think they have it. I think it's Western provided, just a camouflage. Now let's see how this Shmyhal guy, very good with money, mind you, Denys Shmyhal, very Ukrainian. He does this, and I found this article in Russia Today, but you can find it in other media outlets with slightly different terms used, obviously. Here, these guys use the right terms, I think. Russia Today, 28th of August. Ukraine demands, I don't know if it demands, $50 billion from G7 with no string attached. I found this in another article in a Western media outlet. The loan must be interest-free, and the funds need to be available for any use. Prime Minister Denys Shmyhal has said, this guy right here, he looks like Charles Michel, doesn't he? Or I don't know, like if you put a wig and a little bit curly hair, he's going to look like Trotsky, Mr. Bronstein, I think. Now, G7 countries must provide $50 billion in aid to Kiev this year with no strings attached. Did you hear that? It's like you go to a bank and you say, I want you to give me someone else's money, obviously, probably from the Russian so-called frozen assets, illegally taken. I want you to give me 50 billions. No, nothing. No, interest-free and no strings attached. I can use them for whatever I want, and maybe I have to give it to you back in 5,922 years. My friends, they're serious about it. So I said, the loan must be based on the profits. Thank you. I didn't read the article, but here it is. The loan would be based on the profits earned on Russia's assets frozen by the West after the conflict began, he added. Speaking at the Ukraine 2024 Independence Forum on Tuesday, Shmyhal, I think it's Shmyhal. Yeah, Shmyhal, the same garbage. The same shit with a different face. Kind of the same, but anyway. Stated that while G7 leaders agreed to lend Ukraine $50 billion in June, Kiev insists on certain political framework. So they are... Can you believe that these guys supposedly are telling the guys in charge that we're going to negotiate? You're in no position to negotiate, Shmyhal. You can be out in a second by your sponsors. But I think this is a game. A game. I pretend I'm independent. By what? By demanding for the Ukrainian nation, because I'm part of it. Ukraine should receive, all right, should. Why? I don't know. Because they defend your freedom and democracy. When the Russians click, supposedly will come towards you. We're going to stop them. The Ukrainian nation, not my nation, the Ukrainian nation. I fight with the Ukrainian nation for your interest. You got that? But I'm okay. I can fly to New York, London, or Tel Aviv whenever I want. Okay, Ukraine should receive them by the end of this year, at least. These funds should be provided to Ukraine without any conditions. Got that? And how will that be paid? By Russian frozen, right? The G7 countries and the EU must find a must, not could or should. This is again Shmyhal. All right? Find a consensus on how to provide this money. These funds will be compensated for our partners by revenues from frozen Russian assets. So remember, you have this guy with these guys talk about that guy's money that are not theirs. And they decide how they're going to spend it. And it's their guy's money. They don't have any authority to do that, by the way. If you think they do, well, put yourself in the Russia's shoes. And let's say you beat up the neighbor. You start beating up because you're just crazy guy. You beat up the neighbor, right? And you have money, I don't know, lended to neighbors outside of this. And they decide that because you do this, they freeze your money. What would you do? I would go and pay them a final visit, and I will take my money plus interest. That's how I would do, one by one. If you say you can't, well, I have everything I need more than you. What? Nuclear weapons? That's a big threat, isn't it? But hey, the Russians are backing. They are smarter than that. Smarter than what I said. Right? They're not that, but they make it sound like the Russians are mad, crazy, imperialist and all that. But somehow they didn't use once. I mean, I think some of them said that they could, but they say there was no direct threat. You do this or a blackmail, or this is the consequence. Nah, like, hey, Germany, you're gonna freeze our assets. We're gonna queue up. I'm going to pay you a visit. What are you going to do? The Americans are going to defend you? The Americans are going to defend you in your country. So we're going to blow up your country and the Americans will be not affected. And then the Americans could come and reconstruct your country like they did with the Marshall Plan. Please, my friends. It was another rocket. Here it is. Russian assets. The total amount of the Russian assets is $300 billion, he said, adding that the annual interest on this sum is, he already calculated, is 3 to 4 billion annually. Got it? All right. Next one. Russia Today. The 28th of August. EU states defense minister calls for conscription of women. Latvia introduced mandatory military service for males last year and is now preparing for public discourse to draft females. This is how the government works. You got in a free world. In the free world, you got some very rich companies and owners of those companies and shareholders and bankers and all that. So those guys over there. Now they invest their money. Don't put your eggs only in one basket. So they have media outlets. They own some of them, through shares. So those media outlets will say whatever those guys are. They know exactly. Not going to say, hey, Rheinmetall or let's say Raytheon has 20% shares in, let's say, CNN, and we're going to run some investigative reports against the connection between, let's say, Raytheon, Lloyd Austin, the U.S. government, and military-industrial complex. We're not going to make any connections like that because the guys are going to close our doors. They are in charge of us. So they buy these kind of things because it's free, not illegal. Then they lobby and then do campaign donations. They hire lobby firms with money. They will lobby around politicians that they help with campaign donations, with another legal term for, I would say, bribery, to the politicians that will get elected when promoted by my media. So I provide the money, I have the media that are gonna get the baboons watching that particular media, and then we have free elections with electronic voting machines. What could go wrong? And then those politicians are gonna get in charge, and they will say, well, this is public discourse now. Who's gonna conduct the public discourse? My media. Remember, Raytheon, let's say, has shares in CNN. CNN will have a public discourse in America. How do you think that will run? Please. And the same thing is in Latvia. Do you think that things are different in Latvia? These big media conglomerate businesses, they own main ones in Romania, Hungary. Oh no, Hungary, no, can't, because that's that crazy guy, the strongman, the dictator, prime minister, right? Yeah, okay. But so they own certain ones. Like, for instance, I remember they have in Romania some, I can't remember the outlets. They are a parent company is in the United States of America. Do you think those guys will say something different than those guys wanted to say? No. So same, the discourse is just a game for the baboons to, yeah man, we discuss, and then somehow they will decide, yes, we're going to do this. Well, that's Latvia's problem. Why I said Estonia? Because here is the map. Let me show you how important this country of Latvia is. Latvia is right here. This is Europe. Obviously, this is how Russia is or was. This is Ukraine. Estonia is part of the Baltic states, the three total population right here, 6.1 million people, these three countries. Very noisy, 6.1 million people. And here is Poland right here. So obviously these guys in Latvia, they say that they have share a border, they have compulsory conscription from male. So let's see the population. And Republic of Latvia. All right, and we have find out here that ethnic groups, that's very important, ethnic groups. 63% Latvians. And then we have 24%, my friends, 24%, 1/4 of the population is Ruskis. 3.1 is Belarusian. I got some Ukrainians, Poles, Lithuanians, Roma, Jews, and all that. So remember, these are the Russians plus the Belarusians, let's put it, is about 28% of your country. So that's one. And let's see the population, the great population. Population estimate 2022, 1.85, let's say. 1,842,226. Right there. This is the population of the great country of Latvia that will take on Russia. That country with that population, 1, not 2 missiles needed. Not needed. If you just want to clear the air over there. But you're going to kill your what? You're going to kill your 24% Russian-speaking ethnic Russians? No, you won't, obviously. You would have done. But you can use the same justification the United States used in, I remember, in Texas. And then in Texas, and then in Mexico, and then they purchased half of those guys' country without wanting. And then the same thing someone else copied, which is Adolf in Sudetenlanden, if you remember. He copied the same thing as the Americans did, so must be good, right? No, it was awful, and so on. So the thing with ethnic in other countries is been done by many others prior to that guy and prior to Russia in Ukraine. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.